So in 5.5, we're going to continue with our division of polynomials. But this time we're going to learn the shortcut, which is synthetic division. It's a little shorter version. Caution a little bit. It only works for specific divisors. The divisor has to look like this. You have just an x plus a constant.
So it can't be x.
Or it could be x minus a constant. Okay, so there can't be an x squared. It has to be just an x. Okay, nothing times the x plus a constant. Okay, now to set this up, what you're going to do is if I have x plus 3 equals 0, then I get x equals negative 3. That negative 3 is going to be the key to making this whole thing work. So the first thing you're going to notice is I have x plus 3. I'm going to use a negative 3.
So there's x is going to be x equals 3.
Right. You're going to switch the sign.
Nope.
So I'm going to write down negative 3, put a little box around it. Now, I'm going to drop all of the x's. I'm going to just look at the coefficients of x. Make sure that first your polynomial is written in standard form. So I have x to the third plus x squared minus 8x plus 5. Then I see 2 is the coefficient of the x to the third. So I'm going to write down a 2. 1, since there's nothing there, I assume it's a 1. 1 is the exponent of x squared. Negative 8 is the exponent of x, or the coefficient of x. And 5 is the constant. So write them in that order. Order is important here. Now you're going to leave a space, because I'm going to put numbers on this line right here, and then I'm going to draw a line under the whole thing. Now, if you start this right, it's the key to the whole thing. So the first thing you do is just take that first coefficient, that 2, and write it underneath of the line. Now, the next thing you do is you take negative 3 times 2, and it goes right here. So I take negative 3 times 2 equals negative 6. Now, I add 1 plus a negative 6 is negative 5.
I think I know where it's
Okay. Next thing, I always come back to the negative 3. And this time I multiply negative 3 times negative 5, and I get a positive 15. Look right up there. I add again. So negative 8 plus 15 is 7. Last one. Let's see, what color am I going to get? Black.
Oh, there we go.
So I take negative 3 times 7, and I get negative 21. 5 plus a negative 21 is negative 6. Not 16. There we go.
1 is 6.
Now, put a little box around that last number. Now, here's the trick. I started with x to the third up here. So that means when I look at this last one, I'm going to start with 1 exponent less. So I'm going to start with x squared. So this solution is 2x squared minus 5x plus 7. My remainder is negative 16, so it'll be plus negative 16 over my divisor, which was x plus 3.
Seems simple enough. That's pretty fancy. That's amazing.
Okay, a little less to keep track of. Does that make sense? Any questions about the process? Okay, well, let's look at another one. Okay, this time we're going to divide 4x to the third plus x squared minus 7 by x minus 1. Now the first hoping you notice.
There's no X.
There is no X. Very good. So I'm going to add a 0x in there. Now when I look at x minus 1, then x minus 1 equals 0. That means x equals 1. So I'm going to use a positive 1 in my little box here.
Oh, that's easy.
Then I'm going to say 4 for the x to the third, 1 for the x squared, 0 for the x, and minus 7 for the constant. Skip a line and draw a line. Now remember, the first one you do is you bring down to 4. Now remember, when you multiply, you always come back to this number in the little box, your divisor. So I have 1 times 4 is 4. I take 1 plus 4, and I get 5. 1 times 5 is 5. Then I add 0 plus 5 is 5. Multiply again, come back to my 1. 1 times 5 is 5. I add negative 2 is my remainder. So now what's my first exponent going to be on my new answer?
4x squared.
4x squared.
Plus 5x plus 5 with the remainder of negative 2 over x minus 1.
Okay. Makes sense? So you should kind of have the process. Now I'm going to look at a couple of ways that you're going to use this besides just the division. Okay? So there's a couple of other types of problems you're going to see. One is, given this polynomial, x to the third minus 6x squared plus 5x plus 12, and I know that x minus 4 is a factor, factor it completely. Excuse me. Set it up, we'll be right back. Okay, so we should have this. We have 4, we have 1x to the third, minus 6, plus 5, and 12. Okay, let's see. Oh, okay, I bring the 1 down. 4 times 1 is 4. Negative 6 times 4, or plus 4 is negative 2. 4 times a negative 2 is negative 8. 5 plus negative 8 is minus 3. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. 12. Now, if my remainder is 0, that means that it is a factor. Okay, so it told you that x minus 4 is a factor. So if it tells you that it is a factor and you don't come up with a remainder of 0, try again. Because if it is a factor, your remainder will always be 0. So now I'm factoring this thing. So when you're factoring, you need to keep track of the factors. So my first factor was what I divided with to begin with. My next factor, I'm going to start with the x squared.
You mean x with x cubed?
Okay, I have x cubed here, so I say minus 1, and that's x squared. Okay, so then I would have minus 2x minus 3. Now I'm factoring completely. Can I factor x squared minus 2x minus 3 further?
Yes.
Yes, we can. So I still have x minus 4. I have an x and an x. Okay, signs.
Negative and positive.
Negative and positive. gonna be minus
3 plus
3
1.
plus 1, because negative 3 times 1 is negative 3, negative 3 plus 1 is 2, and now it is factored completely. So on that little section where it says factor completely, this is what I want it to look like. Okay? One more type of problem that you're going to see today. It's given, find the other zeros of f, given that f of negative 2 equals 0. So that's going to be your directions. You're going to be given a number that you know is a 0 of that polynomial, and you need to find the other zeros. This is an equation. When you set it equal to 0, you guys know how to do this too. So if f of negative 2 equals 0, then you know that x plus 2 is a factor, right?
So
Because
x minus 2.
So x minus 2 is the one we're looking for, so we use a negative 2, or x plus 2, so negative 2 is going to be what our number is here. So you'll notice, if they give you the 0 already, you don't change the sign. If they give you the factor, you do. Keep track of that in your head.
So why write x plus 2 then?
That is it, because x plus 2 is a factor. So when I divide this by x plus 2, then I'm going to come out with 0 remaining.
So when they put the 0 up there, then don't change it.
Exactly.
Okay, so now I have x to the third. Its coefficient is 1. X squared, its coefficient is 2. X, its coefficient is negative 9, and 18 is just negative 18. Okay, so let's do our process. We're going to do this a little quicker because you should be getting the hang of it by now. Bring down the 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2. Negative 2 plus, or 2 plus negative 2 is 0. Negative 2 times 0 is 0. Negative 9 plus 0 is negative 9. Negative 2 times negative 9 is positive 18. It's 0. Life is good. It came out the way it should.
That rhymes.
Okay, so my factors so far are x plus 2, because I divided by my negative 2 here. And then I have x squared plus 0x, so I'm going to leave that one out. Not there. Minus 9. I'm looking for the 0, so I'm going to set that equal to 0. Does x squared minus 9 factor further?
Yeah, it's x plus 3.
X plus 3, x minus 3. So I have x plus 2 times x plus 3 times x minus 3 equals 0. And if I'm finding the zeros, then I set each factor equal to 0. So I have 3 zeros here, which is what you'd expect. Equals negative 2, x equals negative 3, and x equals positive 3. Since it was to the third, you'd expect 3 zeros, and that's exactly what we got. Okay? So, your assignment today, on page 366, you do 11 through 18. I want you to use synthetic division today, and then 22 through 30 for the even. The last two sections are, as you can see, like the last two examples. Remember, if it includes, if it's asked you to find the zeros, then you should get an answer that x equals something. If it asks you to factor completely, it should look like this right here. So read directions carefully.
No, Bobby, I will not ask if we can listen for